and it means free. Free as in liberated. And this whole journey started just before Burning Man last year. And that was my first burn. This is my second burn with the same camp. And before the event, I was thinking about a playa name for myself. And I kept thinking and thinking the intention I wanted for the burn. And I didn't know what to expect since it was my first burn, even though I had read about Burning Man. I decided to choose AZAD, which means free, as I said, as in liberated. And the reason I picked AZAD was because I was honestly kind of tired of what society wanted me to be, just like a lot of us over here. You know, we sometimes are pigeonholed into a role or into a character that doesn't truly represent who we are, whether it's due to social pressure, work, family, whatnot. And I wanted my first burn to be a liberating experience for me, almost like finding my calling and or finding the courage to pursue my calling. So there were a couple of incidents in particular at last year's burn that really inspired me and led me to this journey, which I'll get to in a minute. And those two incidents were, one, among the very many random strangers, now friends, that I met at last year's burn. One of them was an aspiring actress / model from New York. And she was out in the deep playa, and I was just biking there, and I randomly saw her. She was doing her own thing. She was just dancing at the edge of the playa. And it was so beautiful. So I just stopped there and just watched her. And then once she stopped, and I introduced myself, started talking, and then we instantly connected. So I gave her a gift, and she gave me a gift. And her gift to me was a locket. She had a little piece of paper inside of it. So she took it out and she said, whatever you want to accomplish, whatever you want to be in the next 6 months, maybe 12 months, just write it down right now, put it in there, and then just use it as a reminder to yourself. So I did that. And for as long as I can remember, I've wanted to be a filmmaker. I do not have any academic or professional experience in filmmaking. And I am a big movie geek, so I essentially learned filmmaking by watching films. But I had never made a film up until recently. So I wrote that I wanted to be a filmmaker and make my first film within the next 6 to 12 months. So I did that. And then the second incident, it was actually one of the arguers. It said, before I die, I want to be. And I wanted to come up with something ambitious to almost force myself to at least start on that. I wrote, before I die, I want to be the greatest filmmaker ever. And that was very ambitious, considering the person doesn't have any experience whatsoever. I wrote that, and I took a picture as a reminder to myself. So I went back, but I had this locket hanging in my living room, and it was served as a daily reminder that I gotta start this journey, I gotta start this journey. But still, I needed a final push, which happened last year in November. But it started happening during the election cycle. But when the election happened, that was the last straw that I needed. And I was pissed, like a lot of people around the world and around the country. And I was posting stuff on Facebook and social media and whatnot. But then I thought about it, and I'm like, the people that think like me are already convinced. And the people who think differently aren't necessarily going to be convinced just because I'm posting something. So why don't I channel my energy into something productive? And this is what I decided to do. My New Year's resolution. I actually started writing a script on New Year's Eve. And I finished that script for a feature film in 5 weeks. And then I took off work in March for 3 weeks. We shot a feature film in less than 10,000, an independent film with an amateur cast. So I wrote it, directed it, produced it, because I wanted creative control of the project. I didn't want to compromise on that. So that's why I didn't seek funding. And we ended up making the film. So why did I make that film, and why now? So if you think about it, there are roughly 1.6 billion Muslims in the world. About a third of the people in the US identify with a minority group. And there are a little over 42 million immigrants in the US. So I wanted to make something, a socially conscious piece of art, based on modern times, something relevant. It's not sci-fi, it's speculative fiction. So that's what I ended up making. It's based on a near dystopian future, and what allowed me to make it in essentially 3 months, from January to the end of March, was me overcoming my fear of failure. And before I even got to that step, fear of failure, there was a fear of starting, which I think many of us have. You know, as they say that the greatest collection of talent is the graveyard, because there you see all the dreams that were never fulfilled, all the potential that was never fulfilled. Because as I said earlier, we give up on our dreams too soon, and it's never too late to pursue your dream. One of the really inspiring quotes that I like to share is, "Stop aspiring, start doing." I mean, it's not by Robert Rodriguez. I saw it in his 10-minute film school, so that was one of the things that inspired me. So it's not his quote, but he cited it. Stop aspiring, start doing. So that's where you gotta start. You gotta find the courage. And it doesn't matter if you fail or not, but you're never gonna know until you start. And it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to have the fear of the unknown. But you gotta start somewhere. If you don't act, nothing is gonna happen. And it's just gonna be a dream. And at the end of your life, you're probably gonna regret the things that you didn't do versus the ones you did. So I wanted to share this as hopefully a source of inspiration, and maybe you can relate to the story, and hopefully this will give you the courage to finally take that step and find your calling, pursue your dream, whatever that may be, and just never give up. And hopefully it's something around a social cause that can help create a better world, which is something that we really need right now, especially considering the divide we have in the US in particular.
Finished making your film, what was the feeling you had? Did it feel like you've accomplished what you set out?
I was well aware that the work wasn't done, because completing the project is one thing, but the ultimate goal was to spread it to the masses. And based on the issues we were addressing, there were several things mentioned in the film for which you need some historical context. For example, and one of my friends is Jewish, so I showed it to her, and there were references to the Reichstag fire twice in the film, which is essentially what the Nazis did. They burned their own parliament down, and they blamed the Jews for it, and they used this to start persecuting them and get the public behind their actions, right? So I saw it as a very real possibility based on our current environment in the US. So I wanted to allude to that, but my friend didn't get it. So you need some historical context to completely get the film. So I think probably about 1% of the population will completely get the film. I think maybe 10% of the population will get most of the film. But I hope that the masses, my plan is to make a quadrilogy, because I want to make 3 more films in this series. And the main intent was to get the word out, and by showing a near dystopian future, showing those events which are a real possibility, like detention camps, those kind of things that happened during World War II in this country. Japanese Americans, German Americans, Italian Americans, they were held in detention camps, internment camps. So it could very well happen to Hispanics or Muslims or whatnot, right? So we wanted to show those as a reminder that we gotta wake up, and a lot of us are waking up. And hopefully we can prevent some of those events from happening by showing them. And film is a very powerful medium. It's almost like showing them a mirror that, hey, perhaps, you know, you also have these kind of things that you're blaming others for. So maybe it's a wake-up call for them. Maybe have a change of heart. That's what I'm trying to do. Have a change of heart, and then also hopefully create more activists. Because I don't think we have enough activists in the world right now.